on a journey to a wonderful place in time where you don't have to do any hustling for new leads. There's no cold outreach, and all the clients you work with come to you excited to work with you, don't quibble on your prices. They're the absolute dream. They match your values and they just super enjoy working with you, and it all just flows in nicely. Would we all like to live in that world? Yes, it would be great, right? Now, I'm not going to promise you that. Referrals are not your golden ticket to that, but I am going to argue that they can do a damn sight good job of getting you closer there than most other activities you do. And here's some stats to back that up. 84% of B2B decision makers say buying process starts with a referral. And those companies that have formalized programs experience a huge amount more growth. Now, word formalized is in there. And don't worry, this webinar is not about how to launch spammy referral marketing campaigns where you just spam the hell out of your list and beg them for leads in return for Amazon vouchers. So if that's the webinar you are hoping for, I'm sorry, that's not the one for you. For me, all formalized means is that you put some process behind this stuff. Or if process is a dirty word for you, just some intention. Just do this stuff with a little bit more forethought and help the people that want to help you to do so. Because we've all heard of the saying, it's not just what you know, it's who you know. It's kind of baked into society. And I'd argue the reason for that is because connecting with people, doing business based on shared value, introducing people, it's the oldest form of marketing. And so most people, it still feels the most natural and it's the most successful as well. So quick show of hands for you. How many of you are getting referrals into your business at the moment? Yeah, okay, so everyone, perfect. How many of you are asking? Okay, we've got a couple of hands and a shaky one. How many of you have said, would you have an actual process behind this stuff? No? Okay, right. So that's kind of, same survey, only 30% of companies did. And so that's the norm. And so everything that I do is around helping you kind of put some of these structures behind that. Very quickly, for those of you that I've not met before, who am I? Why am I talking about this stuff? So I've got a background in business membership. I work for the Chamber of Commerce, and then Business Scene, you'll see that logo there. That was a membership organisation that I ran, and we grew it to 2,000 members, almost entirely through referrals and partnerships. I then ran a benefit business, providing leads to some of the big global brands you see on the screen there. We had reached about 1 million small business owners, so we acted as the entry point to the SME market for some of these guys. And now at Collaboration Junkie, I help brands identify, nurture and scale referral opportunities and partnership opportunities. And have helped nearly a few hundred businesses along the way over the last 4.5 years. So that's what I do. So I've had some successes. I've made or witnessed lots and lots of mistakes along the way as well. And essentially, I've made those mistakes to try and help you guys not to. So what are we going to cover today? We're going to look at the who, why, what, when, and how of referrals, with a cheeky little bit at the end as well around how to do our follow-ups, because the fortune is in the follow-up. Before we do that though, golden rule. Who here's busy? Right? Life is busy, right? There's always something to be done. And because we live in this busy culture, if something isn't easy for us to do, either mentally or practically, it typically gets put on our I'll get round to it pile. Even if it's something we really want to do, I'll get round to that. And I don't know about you, my I'll get round to it pile doesn't get looked at all that often, much to my wife's dismay. So if you want someone to do something for you, like make an introduction, make it as easy as possible for them to do so. And that's going to be a common theme that runs through all of this. So a blank screen. If I say the word referral to you, what comes to mind? What's the definition of a referral? Who's feeling brave?
I guess someone doing an intro for a service they don't directly offer themselves, someone that you've worked with before that trusts you and knows that, they might have a client come to them and they're maybe too big or too small, and you offer a service that they're after.
Yeah. Okay. Love that. Yeah. Cav, you were going to jump in there as well.
Yeah, I just simply Dave proxy marketing. You know, it's that osmosis, the good hemorrhaging of your stuff where people say either passively or actively in conversation, yeah, this person's brilliant, I've used them, or I've heard other people use them and they're great.
Yeah. Now, I would say that's a recommendation,
Right.
right? But there's a scale here, right? And so, and all that is all good stuff, and it all comes within that kind of referral proxy marketing piece. For me, and this is a Dave definition, not a dictionary one, it's a warm, contextualized introduction to another individual from a mutual connection. Brilliant when they've used your service already, Phil, and there's that extra element of trust baked in. But for me, it's the contextualized bit that I think that's important, and that it's warm. It's not affiliate marketing. It means something. That introduction actually carries some weight um, rather than just something blanket. So I said this was going to be interactive. Why are referrals great? I'm guessing I don't have to argue the fact that they are, because otherwise you wouldn't be here. But yeah, why are referrals great?
Well, I
Uh,
guess, sorry, go ahead,
no,
Phil.
no, I was just going to say, I think in my experience, they've almost done part of the sort of pitch for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Really.
100%. Cav?
Yeah, well, I was going to ask you if the key word on the previous slide was individual, but for that is me. That's it. Someone you know, like, and trust who's already used that person. They'll say, we're similar. We got the same values. This person's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say that. So Dave said it for me: the trust and knowing the person behind the mask, and then being able to refer the small bits in between, not just what you do, the kind of person behind the mask. You know, people
Yeah,
want to deal with people.
yeah, I love that. People refer you for what you do, not what you sell. And as soon as we can get that mindset piece around that, it is still a personal relationship based thing. Then I think that's when you can really emphasize this stuff. You can be more intentional about a strategy while still keeping it personal. So yeah, look, people do business with people they know, like, and trust, which I think has come up a couple of times. Bob Berg was the person who really coined the phrase and popularized it, and it's the full phrase is: all things being equal, businesses will do business with and refer business to people they know, like, and trust. And I think that rings true, which means shorter sales cycles, less haggling on price, way less likely to be ghosted by someone that's come in via referral, because someone else's reputation is within the line of it, right? I've seen a wry smile from Phil there. Yeah. Just hate ghosting. And it grows the business with clients you love working with, particularly if you take control of your referral strategy. Because if you're unfortunate enough to still have the odd asshole client, don't ask them for referrals, because they probably know other assholes, right? You can pick how you build your business this way. It's also the ultimate sign of trust. I get a lot of people come to me, particularly in agency land, actually, worried that, oh, if I ask for introductions for my clients, am I pushing them away? Do they think that they're not good enough for me? And it's actually the opposite. If you position it in the right way, then it's a big compliment to them. But every time someone makes an introduction to you, they're not just providing you with an opportunity; they are trusting you with a little bit of their reputation. And that's probably one of the biggest bits of trust people can put in you, is that. And so when they do, every time they make an introduction, they're trusting you more and more, which actually brings them, I would argue, brings them closer to you rather than pushing them away. Introduced clients are also way more likely to be introducers, because it's already warmed up that that's how you work. So this isn't a linear model; it's a scalable model. Let's let John in. And if you have got teams, as you grow your teams, you've got customer facing people. If you bake this in at the start, then actually a culture of referrals makes it even more scalable, and it brings your team closer to the business as well, because they feel part of its growth. So, why not? For those of you that aren't asking consistently, and I can either shout out or put it in the chat, I'm risking being distracted and keeping an eye on the chat. Why aren't you? For those of you that aren't asking consistently now, why not? This is a trickier one to open up on. Emma, yes, thank you.
Well, partly laziness and partly not really knowing how to structure the opening, refer me
Yeah, okay.
without sounding like an arse.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, I get that one a lot. Anyone else?
Yeah, it's a fear. It's a fear, ultimately. It's a fear of sounding like an absolute idiot or feeling like you do, or your perception on that moment in time
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
be.
And you know what? Unsurprisingly, any of you, all of you, could have said something, and it almost certainly wouldn't have been the first time I've heard it. But typically, everything comes down to what I class as one of two things. It's either mindset, it's either practical stuff like when do I ask, how do I ask, what do I do. That's very easy to work on, and it's and we'll run through a load of that today. The other side is the mindset piece, and that they don't want to feel like being a burden on someone, that it feels like a sales activity, that they don't want to be pushy, and ultimately those two things boil down to either imposter syndrome or fear of rejection. If you really take them to their root cause, and I kind of bundle all those things up and I call it the ick, right? That it just feels a bit icky. Now, this ick is not a British thing. I have delivered this content, I think, in pretty much every continent, and US a lot. People in the States still get the ick. This is a global thing. Us Brits may get a little bit more of it, but it is a universal thing. And the thing is, that ick, it only exists in your mind because, let me ask you a question. The last time you made an introduction to someone and you heard that it went well, how did that make you feel? Good, right? It's a nice thing when you know you've done it. It's back to that tribal instinct of wanting to connect to people with shared values. And that's because people love to make introductions. You've just got to make it easy for them to do so. So if you felt great about giving introductions, why would someone else not feel good about doing that for you? There's a load of people out there that do want to help you, and the more you help them to do that, then the better everyone feels. So I would argue it's everyone's duty to ask for introductions because you're helping spread positive vibes all around the world. And at the end of the day, what's the worst that could happen? Someone says no, right? Someone could say they're never going to work with you again and badmouth you all over LinkedIn, but that's a pretty small chance of that ever happening. Realistically, the worst that could happen is someone could say no. So, and as a dad of three, I get no all the time. So I'm pretty thick-skinned. Right. So, with that in mind, let's get on to the real meat of the bones, and we're going to start with who should we be asking. I presume Guess You is a more diverse board game than it was back in the 80s when I was growing up, but I've gone with the original image. Look, we're going to skip this bit quite quickly because essentially everyone, right? You can ask anyone and everyone, but be really, but the other thing to think about is not to discount people. So the only people I would discount are unhappy customers or people that you don't like, right? But outside of that, it's not just your clients and your close network. Your prospects could be brilliant referrers. Your ex-clients, if you haven't asked them before, can be brilliant referrers. It really is about opening your eyes to just the level of scope here, and hopefully some of the situations we point out as we go through will identify that. The why of why people refer. Now, in the vast majority of cases, it's because they want to. People love to make introductions. But a question I get asked all the time is around how do we reward referrals? Now, if you're entering into a partnership, so working with another business where this stuff is going to happen consistently, I'm a big fan of a commercial arrangement being in place there. If the businesses are in sectors that allow that sort of thing. And I run another webinar on partnership strategy that you're more than welcome to. If you're looking at referrals from your clients and your wider network, the vast majority of people will do it because they want to. There is a brilliant book called Drive by Dan Pink and a shorter TED talk as well that I'll share post this, that talks about intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. Most of us are intrinsically motivated, which means we do things because we want to, because we're compelled to. And the minute you put an additional reward on top of that, or then it can actually have the opposite effect. So go you send it launching. I get an email every couple of months from Zero offering me 50 quid if I refer them, and I'm like, really? I wouldn't refer Zero anyway because I hate using it. It's built for accountants, not business owners. But that's not going to drive me, right? And actually it has the opposite effect, and the same could be true of your audience. That actually going out with a, oh, if you give us, for every lead you give us that converts, we'll give you 100 quid or whatever it may be, can actually have the opposite effect. It can make people go, oh, Phil, I was going to refer you anyway because you're amazing, but now you've turned it into a sales activity. That feels icky and it's put me off. Now that doesn't mean you don't reward people though, because there's a big difference between incentive and reward. A reward is saying thank you. Now you can mention the reward in advance, or you can do it after the event. I'm a big fan of surprising people. I always say the purpose of a referral reward is to raise an unexpected smile. I want Emma to phone me up and go, oh, Dave, thanks so much for that. There was no need, but thank you. And the more personal you can make that, the better. I'll give an example. I had a few years ago now, an amazing referral in for what turned out to probably my biggest ever client in my benefit business. There's no way the guy would have accepted a commission. But I knew him well enough. I knew I took him out for a nice sushi lunch in London. And then had said in a conversation to me previously, he hadn't been to a gig for ages. So I gave him, at the end of it, I gave him a nice chunky Ticketmaster voucher and went, there you go, you and your wife go to a gig. I want to hear what gig you did. He was absolutely made up because I bothered to think about something personal. So you might not know the people that give you referrals that turn into clients well enough to do that, but the more personal you can make it, the better, because it shows you care. Now, some people are extrinsically motivated though. They are reward motivated. If your audience is full of salespeople or anyone else that's commission driven, then there's a good chance that even if they're not completely extrinsically motivated, a reward based thing is going to inspire them to, if not refer the first time, refer on a repeat basis. So there is exceptions to this. Have a think about who your audience is. If you're not certain, you can always, off the back of an introduction they make, mention the fact that if they wanted a commission split type thing, then you'd be happy to offer that. What do those commissions look like? I'm a big fan of lifetime value. But you can do it for as long as someone's an active referrer. So if you've got a retained income, if you've got a recurring revenue product, then a 10% kind of thing. There is no right or wrong other than the fact it's got to feel fair and equitable to both parties. There isn't this magic number where everyone's happy with a referral fee. It's got to fit within your margins, but the other person needs to feel that it's something worthwhile. I will include a link to a separate video I've done all about the financial structure, but the main thing for referrals is to remember that most people will do it because they want to, because they like you and they want to help. So that's the who and the why. Next, we're on to what we're asking for. So the first up on this is that this is what I call a referral staircase, right? So back to your point, have from the very start around people just spreading the word about you. That's great, right? Awesome. They're still investing a bit of their reputation in spreading the word about you. And it's the same as things like if you run a newsletter or you've got an event, getting people to share that and share your content is all good stuff. So I'm not saying don't do it, and it all just gets people trusting you that little bit more and potentially winds them up the staircase to where at the top of it, it's passing over leads that are ready to go. But for today, we're focusing on clients. And on that make it easy theme, I want to talk about being specific. Now, there's a reason why I use this image, and it's not just because I love festivals. When I ran my membership organisation, I was running 3 events a week, seeing probably 200 small business owners over the course of those events. And as the person that hosted the event, people would come to me and go, "Oh, Dave, I'd love an introduction, please." And I'd say, "Oh, yeah, of course. Who would you like to speak to? Who do you work with?" They go, "Oh, we work with any small business owner," thinking they were being really, really helpful to me because there were so many people I'd be able to introduce them to. And I'd push them to go, "Oh, well, forward-thinking, growth-minded small business owners." Well, okay, right, that really helps. Because when people said that, I couldn't pinpoint anyone. I just saw a sea of people like I was on the top of a festival stage. But the minute they went, actually looking to speak to accountants of this size who deal with this type of business, and maybe there's a geography in there, it got more and more and more razor sharp until I could see that girl at the front with the flag. And I went, "Oh, yeah, I know that person. I can make an introduction." The trouble is when we're specific, we risk the dopamine hit of someone saying no, not saying yes, right? So we think that by being broad, it helps, but it doesn't. If you're broad, when you ask for your introduction, a referral request, 10 people will say yes, right? But you'll be 4 might make an introduction, and you're really lucky if any of them are actually people that you really want to speak to. When you're a bit more specific about what you're looking for, maybe only 6 say yes, but 4 of them do it, and all 4 will be the right people. So the kind of that top of funnel bit isn't as great when you're specific, but the results, which is actually what matter, come through in absolute spades. And so there's a couple of ways you can be specific. The first one is obviously a specific type of business, like I described then, a very specific demographic, ideally, if the business is big enough, with who the person is, right? So I'm looking for HR managers within corporates in the tech space or whatever it may be, and giving some reason behind that. That's one way of being specific, really good for getting immediate introductions with people that you know well enough. And on that note, LinkedIn's a great one for being specific, because the way you can be most specific is to ask for an actual person that you know someone knows. I love it when people ask me for specific introductions, because it's easy for me to say yes. That's the easiest thing to do. When someone says, "Hi Dave, I know you know this person, can you introduce me to them because," and they give me a really good bit of context, brilliant, because I can say yes, make the introduction really easily. So LinkedIn's really, really powerful for that. Yes, Emma, if you've got your ideal client avatar sorted out, this is easy. The next piece around being specific, though, and this is the one that people don't always do, is what I call situational niching, which is all about triggers and moments in time. So what do I mean by a moment in time? There are moments in time in your prospect's life or business where what you do is super, super relevant, right? And they just need you. It's the ones where you have the conversation, the sales conversation, and they're like, "James, can you hurry up, please? I just want you to take my money. I needed you to work with you yesterday," right? Now, they don't all work quite like that, but you know the ones I mean, where it's easy and they want to work with you quickly. Now, this could be a time of year, tax returns, Christmas, whatever it may be. It could be a stage in their business journey, like they've taken on their first employee, or they're about to fire an employee, or they've taken on their first senior leader, or they're making redundancies. It could be when they move into a new office. It could be that they've just got investment. It could be that they just reached a level of maturity. Maybe they're at a certain turnover or age and they don't want their self-made brand anymore. It could also be, and this is highly likely, even though we don't want to sell this way, that they've had a really shit experience with a competitor, right? Let's not forget about those ones. So for all of you, you'll have a moment in time. Quick nod, like, have you all been able to think of a moment in time where actually your business is super relevant? Yeah? Okay, right. Because what the triggers are, this is what your prospect is saying when they're in that moment in time. When there's that pain that you're about to solve for them, or that opportunity that you're about to kind of help them realize, what are they saying in day-to-day conversation? When I say to Emma, "Hey Emma, how you doing?" What's Emma saying in casual conversation that highlights she's in this moment in time? And I'm going to stress here about what she's actually saying, because what they're not saying is what's written on your website. People don't talk in marketing language. They talk in real human language. So people typically don't go around saying they're looking for a new logo. They might do, but what they will do is be embarrassed about their business card before they hand it over, right? Or they'll apologize in advance about their website. "Oh, you got a website? Yeah, but it's getting a refresh," right? That's the trigger for a web designer. It's not, and those kind of memorable things is people talking about being stressed about, "Oh yeah, I'm good. I've just taken on an employee though, and there's so much to think about," right? It's those little things. It's people moan. People like to moan, right? So people typically might be moaning about something that means that it's a good signal that your product or service is ready. And the reason why I call them triggers is because we've all heard about the power of storytelling and marketing. Well, these are little mini stories that sit in the brains of the people that are willing to introduce you, so that when they're out and about and one of these triggers comes up, they go, oh, you should speak to James because it just sits there in their mind waiting to be triggered by a conversation they hear. You know you've got a good trigger when the person you mention it to goes, oh, and they think about a conversation they've had in the last 2 weeks. That's the perfect sign that you've nailed it. And the good people to test these with are your favorite clients. Ask them what they were saying, like test it out on them. But this stuff is really good for making a referral request way more gentle, because you're not going, do you know these people? You're saying, can you listen out for this? And it's a really nice way of making it very specific, but unsalesy. So I'd really encourage you all to kind of come up with these post this event. And look, it may seem obvious, right? It may seem obvious that if someone's talking about needing my services, then surely that person would refer me. But unless you've asked them, they won't do it. It needs to sit there in subconscious. People often will say, oh, I didn't know you needed referrals. I thought you were busy already. Like, you have to ask. That way it sits there and it becomes a much more intentional piece. It's not common sense, it's experience. Okay. So we've done the who should we ask, why would they refer us, what we're asking for, and then on to when to ask. So I've done far too much talking, not enough listening. When do we ask for referrals? Come on.
When you feel you've done a great job,
Yeah.
there should be a time in the cadence when it feels tick, KPIs, whatever, you've delivered what you said you were going to do. And there's a big, happy, smiling, warm feeling.
Yes. So when we said we were going to do what we do, good experience. Yeah, I'd agree with that. Anyone else?
Probably mentioning it as well early in the process that you have been recommended and referred by people already in your circle. And if you mention it early enough, then just on a low level, you're suggesting it, and then you suggest it later down the line.
Yeah.
Again, more in sort of, oh, by the way, if you've had that experience with me,
I call that seeding, James. You're seeding that an actual request may come later down the line. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Okay, so any time is the right time. It's just got to be the right opportunity. But the best time is when your customers are most delighted with you, right? And I call these wow moments, which also stops the distracting screen. Now, there is plenty of sales training out there, and Cav, I'm sure you've come across some of this as a sales director yourself, that says the best time to ask is just after the sale, when someone's in kind of heightened mode. And I'm not necessarily disagreeing that isn't a good time to ask, but the best time is when your customers are most delighted. I would say customers, it could even be prospects, and that can be at any point in the journey. But quite often it's not at the end of a project. And I use my own branding as a real example of this. I knew it was going to be good. I knew the person that ran the agency I went to, she's become a friend, she came to my wedding and everything, so I knew it was going to be good. But when I got the first draft back, I still get little goosebumps when I think about it. I was just blown away. It was absolutely perfect, way more than I ever thought it could be. It was amazing. When they delivered the final assets a month down the line or whatever it was great, but all they'd done is deliver against my heightened level of expectation. So it wasn't that same, oh my God, this is amazing, I need to tell the whole world about them, right? So, but that's that particular example. I've had clients in IT services where they get their best time for referrals was before people are clients. They did such a good job of the discovery stage, pointing out the mess that someone's 365 was in, that's where they got all their referrals, because it was such a good level of service they did. For other people, the real wow moment may be a lag. SEO and coaching are two ones for this, where there can be this initial work, but actually the real effects come much later down the line. And so I would encourage you all to map out your potential wow moments right from when you start talking with someone to right at the very end, because there is only one person that gets to decide when you've delivered enough value to offer a referral, and it's not you, it's your client. Like, some people will decide if you've got this new innovative product and someone comes and goes, oh my God, where have you been all my life? I've been waiting for this. They are ready there and then to tell every single friend and family member who's got that same problem about you. But it's going to be different. It's going to be different for every business, but it's also going to be different for every client. Not every client will get the same level of wow at every point in the journey. So this isn't about asking at every point, because then that can become pushy and salesy, which is the exact opposite of what today's supposed to be about. It's about you being aware in advance of where these points might happen, so that you can be aware of it and go, okay, if it does get the reaction you want, then you can go, right, I'm going to put the referral request in. One extra thing on this though, don't ruin the moment. Like, if someone's had a wonderful breakthrough and it just isn't right, if it's going to feel really out of place to go, brilliant, let's now have a referral request, don't do it, right? Get in touch with them the next day, right? Go, Jelaine, it was so nice speaking to you yesterday. Love that that's how you feel about the work we're doing together. It's why we do what we do. Listen, can I ask a quick favour? Right? You just capitalize on it while the feeling is still there, but don't ruin the moment. I did this talk in person at the business show last year, and there was someone who did cuddle therapy. And I use that as an example, right? You wouldn't, in the middle of an embrace, whisper in their ear, "Can I have a referral, please?" Right? That would be entirely inappropriate. So it's about, there is still this human element, right? You've got to get over your ick to know, I'm just going to ask for the request. But there is a healthy amount of ick, which is going, am I going to look like a pushy idiot, or actually is it the right time? So don't ruin the moment. The other brilliant time to ask for introductions is when people feel obligated. But you should never make people feel obligated, but there are times when people feel naturally indebted to you and want to help you out. That's a brilliant time as well. So yeah. Okay. So nearing the end stretch now. So we know what we're asking for. We know when to ask. But how do we ask? How do we keep it feeling natural? And that's the only golden rule, is to keep it natural. And natural for me is different to natural for you. And natural is also about the particular clients, because I'm sure we've all got different people we work with who have got different personality types, and you converse with them in a different way. I'm quite direct with my referral requests, and I do it in quite a blatant, cheeky way. I can, because this is what I do. So it'd be a bit odd if I didn't kind of ask for introductions, right? But the main thing is about keeping it natural. If you're in the middle of, if you're having a lovely conversation with a client or a prospect that's on your network, and then you suddenly take a deep breath and get all formal, that's going to make it really awkward for everyone, and it's not going to be nice, and you're not going to do that on a repeated basis. So the first thing is to keep it natural. And natural, as I said, natural can be at varying levels of informality. Here is a very loose structure that just gives you an idea of how to frame something. So, and then I'll give an example. So the first one is the tee up, right? And it could be because someone's just had so this could be someone who's just had a brilliant result with you, or they've said how wonderful you are, or whatever it may be. It could be, then it's the specifics. So are you looking for a specific type of business, or are you planting a seed? Are you using one of the triggers, essentially? Then there needs to be a deliberate request. You have to say you're looking for introductions. That is a golden rule. I'd love an introduction, because otherwise what you would typically end up doing is people will go, oh yeah, no, I do introduce you. I mention you to people all the time. And you go, well, they've not got in touch with me, right? So actually asking for introductions is a really powerful thing. People will be more likely to make it. Context, skipped on two there. Context is king. If you want someone to trust their reputation with you, give them the context as to why you want that introduction. They may know, but they'll also, if you mention it to the person that you think is going to make the introduction, they're more likely to relay that to the person they're suggesting an introduction to. And when someone has context, they're way more likely to say yes. The other thing that makes someone say yes is what I call the gentle next step. It's the reassurance. Now, no matter how well Phil knows me and knows that if he introduces someone to me, I'm not going to hard sell them. If I'm asking Phil for an introduction, and you know what, let's see go. So Tia, Phil, amazing that you loved the webinar yesterday. Really glad you got value. Listen, if you hear anyone else talking about the fact that they'd love to get more introductions, they'd like a bit more process behind it, or maybe they're worried that they're too reliant on referrals, then I'd love a conversation with them, just because I can help them put some process behind this stuff and really help them scale with it. And of course, look, in the first instance, I'm happy just to have a friendly chat with them, or they can come on to my free webinars. That gentle next step reassurance bit. Now, even though Phil knows that that's what would happen, if I point it out to Phil, when Phil's talking to Jane tomorrow, he goes, "Oh, Jane, I should introduce you to Dave. He's a really good guy, actually. He knows all about this stuff, and I'm sure he'd either have a friendly call with you or he runs these free webinars." Now, Jane goes, "Oh, people are much more likely to want a friendly chat or some free advice than if Phil just left it as I should introduce you to Dave. He's really good at this stuff." Jane goes, "Oh, an intro? That sounds like I'm going to get sold to." People don't want to be sold to. So if you remind your potential introducers of what that gentle next step is, they are way more likely to use that when they mention you to other people, which means people are much more likely to say yes. So there's a little kind of rundown around how you kind of do it. I would encourage you to write some of these things down. Not a script. Let me repeat, this is not a script. But if you've written down 2 or 3 different ways that you would ask for an introduction in different scenarios, once you've written them down, say them out loud, and then you'll be horrified because you'll go, "Oh my God, I would never actually use those words because we write different to we speak." I would actually encourage you to do voice notes, and then because that will sound more natural. Once you, and I repeat, this is not a script, but once you've done this 2 or 3 times, you're like, "Oh, okay, I can imagine me doing that." And then the next time the opportunity occurs, because you've got it in your head, the sorts of things you would say, you're way more likely to actually do it rather than go and chicken out and go, "I'll do it on the next call." And in fact, an offer right now to everyone on this call, if you do get one of these down, or your little referral pitch, send it to me on LinkedIn or email. If you do it on LinkedIn, you can even do it as a voice note, and I'll do a little critique for you. So there's an offer there for anyone feeling brave. So that's the who, what, why, when, how. The final piece is about communication being key. That whole thing I've been talking about people trusting you with their reputation. Give that the respect it deserves. Keep people in the loop. Let them know what's going on with the introduction. Don't go cold on them. I typically say thank you at point of introduction. If I'm speaking to the person that's been introduced to me within the first 2 weeks of the introduction, then I'll leave it and just let the introducer know that once I've had that call on how it's gone. If it's longer than that, I'll let the introducer know, "Oh, right, yeah, I've booked a call with James, but it's not for another 6 weeks because of this. I'll let you know how it's going on." And then let them know at close. Like, don't leave them wandering. That's a surefire way to not get repeat referrals. Let them know if it's gone well. Wonderful. Then send that unexpected gift. If it hasn't ended up in work, still say thank you because they took the effort, but also let them know why. Saying thank you is more like is what gets you another referral, but educating them on why potentially gets you a better referral next time round, because you could be subtly letting them know that the business wasn't of the right size, stage, budget, whatever it may be. So keep people in the loop. So that's it. That's my whistle stop tour. Jelaine, unfortunately, you didn't agree to this, but there was an acceptance that if I gave pure value with no sales pitch, then I'd get 2 minutes at the end to talk about how I support people. Look, I support businesses one-to-one, and I help build cultures of referrals in their team. For owner-managed businesses, I run group programs, which can be ideal. The Better Referrals More Often program is a group program where we work through that framework that you've just gone through. We would go through it in much more detail. And we actually get shit done. It's not theory. We spend time within the online sessions actually getting this stuff done in group format. And there's a big old document and action plan to actually help you implement that. You get the benefit of working within a group scenario, so we can try this stuff out. There's a maximum of 8 business owners on there, so it's always super personalised. It's 750 quid plus VAT. Cohort 4, which is the final cohort of the year, kicks off in a few weeks' time. And then there's 3 fortnightly sessions as follow-ups that go on from that. There's a one-to-one session with me as well, and the early bird bonus, which runs out on Sundays, there's an extra one-to-one session with me. If any of you would like to chat with me about that, drop a yes into the comments, and I'll send some links out afterwards as well. Just as a very final thing for Q&A, here's oh, Phil, you know this, Phil, don't you? So
I do indeed.
we went drinking on Canal Street, didn't we? So there we go. But there we go. Phil was on one of these cohorts, already got this stuff, but one extra practical bit, got him a 34k project, which is pretty nice ROI, right? So so there we go. That's the difference between doing it yourself and working with someone who's who really knows this stuff. So that's me. Thank you for being a wonderful and interactive audience. Any questions about anything? Well, anything at all, but ideally about referrals. No.
Thanks, Dave. Really
Just to
good.
say, it was really good. Yeah, nice one, mate. Thank you.
My absolute pleasure. So what I would reiterate is, oh, Jade, come on. Sorry, a couple of people have come off mic. Was that to say thank you, or we got questions?
No, yeah, I was going to say thanks as well. Really useful. I'm starting a business from scratch, and at the moment, it's all about getting those right foundations in place. So hearing such positive, like direct, that you need that directional sort of advice, which is really important. So, and iron out all your own creases takes time, doesn't it?
It does. And you know what? Practice makes progress. Even if you do with the best will in the world, I still don't get it right all the time. But the more you do it, the more comfortable you get with it. And it's typically the people you're still probably. And the other thing I'd say about new business is referrals can be used for anything, not just clients, right? So if you're on the founder journey of like investment type thing, investors or co-founders or team members, or like leverage your network for anything and everything. And that people want to help, particularly when you're starting out. People really want to help. And early adopters, they're brilliant. What sort of business is it, James?
So web design, and then digital marketing journeys. So
nice.
Go high level with a twist.
Okay, nice. And so people want to help. People want to help, and like I think there's this thing about being honest, open and honest with people about where you're at.
Yeah.
Right? Like you've got that thing around we're growing our business and we're relying on referrals. So if you could help, like people will be invested in you. So
yeah,
awesome.
Super appreciate it.
Cool. Anyone else before I let you lovely lot go? No. Awesome. Right. Well, have wonderful rest of your Thursdays. I will get recording and all that good stuff over to you afterwards. And if anyone wants to chat about how I can support, you know where I am. It'd be a miss for me to end without a referral request, though, right? And it is. If the program isn't right for you, but you know someone that might be perfect for, then please do send them my way. But also, I run these events regularly. So if you know of other organizations, if you think we get value from this, then when I share the link later, just sticking that under their noses so they can come in and get some value would be really appreciated. And speaking gigs, if you're part of other communities, then introductions to potential speaking gigs are really welcome. So awesome.
I think you did something for in business, didn't you, with Tracy and Ian that I'm connected in?
I'm speaking at their event next month.
Oh, cool. Excellent.
There we go. Awesome. Right. Thank you all. Have wonderful Thursdays. Speak soon.
Thanks, Dave.